Welcome to From This Day Forward, a wedding industry podcast. My name's James Clarke, your host and wedding photographer behind Just James Weddings. This is a space for real conversations with couples, photographers and wedding suppliers, exploring what truly matters on a wedding day and how meaningful images can be created. Without further ado, let's jump on into the next episode. Hello, and what a warm welcome to you from this day forward. Rolled quite nicely actually, didn't it? My name is James Clarke, as the intro has kind of already said. I'm a wedding photographer in the UK, have been doing it for the last 5 years full time since COVID, and previously beforehand just as a kind of bit on the side with my previous career. Wow. Well, I never thought I'd get to this point, hosting and running my own podcast. I definitely caught the bug, so thank you to the ladies at I Do and Updo's for giving me that when I went on the show myself. And ultimate inspiration was definitely behind the Unfiltered Bride podcast, which RIP no longer exists. Anyway, this is episode 1. I'm just going to be basically briefing you on what the podcast is, why it exists, who it's for, etc. So hopefully that will give you a nice little rundown. And if I don't look at the camera, it's because I'm either slightly nervous or I need to look at what I'm talking about next. However, this could go off at all kinds of tangents. Who knows? Anyway, ultimately, this podcast is for you. It's not to talk about me, my photography. It's not to talk about what I do, although there might be bits, depending on who I'm talking to, there might be bits that kind of talk a little bit about my photography, but I don't want to boost my own ego. I don't want to talk about myself. I am ultimately driving this podcast to couples, to photographers and other suppliers about trying to either have the best wedding day possible or try and enhance your own business, basically. As I said, I've only been in the wedding photography industry for the last 5 years full time. I'm still technically a rookie. However, I've done nearly 100 weddings. And I have seen a lot. I've heard a lot. That's the most important thing for me. I've heard a lot of things, whether that's at weddings or from other suppliers or even the couples that I have worked with, whether that's before, during, or even after the day, and things that they have experienced. So hopefully this podcast will hopefully alleviate some future couples, anyone that's getting into the industry, anyone that's in the industry at the moment, to kind of have the best experience possible and be able to give the best experience possible to future couples. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about myself. I know I said I wouldn't. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, hopefully give a little bit of credibility to this podcast and where the direction is going to be going. So as I have already said, I am a wedding photographer. I'm based down in sleepy Somerset, but I cover weddings all over the UK. The furthest one that I've done so far is up in Cheshire. And then this year, excitingly, I've got a wedding out in Mauritius. So super excited for that, out in September. And then next year, Ibiza. So I'll be looking forward to that one too. But as I said, ultimately a wedding photographer in the UK. I have been doing it for the last 5 years. My bookings have gone from doing only 5 weddings in my first year to this year doing 42 weddings. I said I'd stop at 40, but the last 2 were of guests that were at previous weddings that I'd worked at. So I kind of fitted them in. Why not? Anyway, my photography style basically is very candid and very documentary style. And we'll talk about styles of wedding photography when we talk to a photographer in future episodes. But I'm not going to delve into that too much. But candid and documentary style is my kind of thing. Just capturing the day as it happens. Nothing's forced. Nothing's kind of thrown on you. I know we have to deal with the formal photos and stuff like that, but everything that I do is very lightly posed, very natural. And although a lot of photos that are on my Instagram portfolio look a little bit posed, at the time of actually capturing them, we had a lot of fun. So that is my style. And I'm there to basically document what actually happens on the day. And again, not direct everything every second. If you are a bride, a groom, and you're looking to book a wedding photographer and you don't want to be away from your guests for hours and hours doing posed photos or very what they call editorial style photos, then I could be the person for you. That's the only selling I'm going to do. I love to see everything happen in the day, basically. That's all the emotions. I love to plan thoroughly beforehand, as couples that would have known from working with me before, quite thorough in finding out all the little details. I almost feel like a wedding planner when I turn up on a wedding day, actually, more than a photographer. And I'm just there to capture your day. So that's what I really care about is, and it comes from my coaching background. So before, a little bit of background, I suppose. Before I was a wedding photographer, I was a swimming coach. And before that, I was a swimmer. So my experiences have been pretty much all in the sports industry. So I've tried to carry that forward a little bit into my photography, in that your wedding day is, or was, what my athletes' nationals was. So I want to try and give every couple I work with the best experience possible. And I'm always trying to find ways of doing that. And hopefully there'll be some guests coming on in the future that have been kind of mentors for me, that are really heavy on client experience, that I've kind of loved to hear from and kind of build into my own business. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. And next I'm going to talk a little bit about what and who the podcast is for. I've probably already explained a little bit that this podcast is driven towards trying to improve couples' wedding days and also try and enhance people's businesses. Again, whether you are a starter or you are well established, there's always things that people can learn. And hopefully by talking to other suppliers, other photographers, and to couples, hopefully I can bridge that gap a little bit between what is already out there and actually what couples can learn and think about for their own wedding day. So this podcast does sit between two groups. There's going to be some episodes where I talk to couples. There's going to be some episodes where I talk to suppliers and photographers. Some of you might switch on for the podcast that talk to couples. Some of you might switch off for episodes that talk to photographers and other suppliers. That is absolutely fine. It's a space for everybody. You can switch on, you can tune in whenever you want and whenever you don't want to. That is absolutely fine. And hopefully, actually, by talking to different people, whether that is a couple, whether that is a photographer or supplier, there is always something hopefully to learn. Whether it's talking to a couple, there might be something that they have experienced which might be related to your business. There might be something that another supplier talks about which a couple might think, actually, that's a really good idea. And actually, maybe I'll talk to that supplier about my wedding day. So again, bridging all kind of gaps between the photographers, the suppliers, I've run out of hands, and couples. Yeah. So that's basically what the podcast, or who the podcast is for. So let's talk about why this podcast even exists. It's twofold, really. It comes from inspiration, as I've talked about. Thank you, ladies. And also comes about from having meaningful conversations with the couples, photographers, and other suppliers about their experiences, whether as a couple it's things that have gone well, things that haven't gone well, things that they would have done differently on their wedding day, looking back and reflecting on it. Talking to photographers and other suppliers about things that they do, things that they maybe things that it could do differently. So ideally, bridging that gap between the couples, photographers, other suppliers, and hopefully bringing it all into one space. Conversations I've had have been very honest and very, very meaningful, as I've mentioned. And whether that has been at a wedding with another supplier or with a couple before, during, or after their wedding day, mostly after, and hopefully bringing these conversations to air. Again, not many people in the industry, podcast industry, talk to couples after the experience. So hopefully, and again, I won't be blowing my own trumpet because I'm not going to be just talking to them about my photography, how I photographed their wedding day, but I'm going to be talking to them about all things about their wedding day rather than just the photography. But hopefully, there'll be no judgment. Obviously, everyone's allowed their opinions. And again, there's no right way to do a wedding. So whatever anyone says, don't have to take it for gospel. But hopefully, again, it will be insightful and it will give you hopefully the best opportunity to kind of listen, take on the advice, and maybe reflect on decisions that you've already made for your wedding day or things that you've done in your business that you could probably change. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of why this podcast exists. So let's talk about who will be on the show. It's going to be pretty obvious though, right? I'm going to be talking to couples first. I'm going to be talking to couples that I've worked with. I'm going to be talking to them about their journey from planning all the way through to their wedding day, and even talking to them about things that they experienced afterwards. And this is the crucial thing, because I don't think anyone's kind of talked to couples in this way. I'm going to be talking to them about what mattered, maybe things that what surprised them, what things went well, what things didn't go so well. So that will give you hopefully a good insight into couples and their experiences at their wedding day. And again, no wedding day is the same. That's time of year, season, timings, etc., etc. So there's lots to learn from couples themselves. I'm also going to be talking to wedding industry experts, whether that's suppliers or photographers. And honestly, even from like pre-recording this episode, the quality and number of suppliers that have got in touch about wanting to be on the show is just unreal. And honestly, I'm speechless. So hopefully I'll be able to kind of tell you who these suppliers are in advance. But again, like, thank you, honestly, for the interest already in the podcast and wanting to be on the podcast too. So yeah, awesome. Thank you. And lastly, there might just be some episodes where I'm talking. It's just going to be me. I'm going to be sharing my insights on the industry. Some things that have come up maybe in the industry that are really important to talk to, not just from a couple's point of view, but also from a supplier's point of view too. Things like ghosting, for example, and we're talking about where actually you might learn something as a couple rather as well as a supplier. So, yep, little old me will be talking some episodes, and sorry, they'll be maybe slightly less interesting than when I talk to couples or suppliers, but it's also important for me to share my insights too. So they're going to be the main three kind of groups I'm going to be talking to on this podcast. So again, there'll be specific sections in the future podcast related to couples. There'll be sections related to suppliers, photographers, whoever it's going to be. And again, sections if it's just going to be me talking. So there's no fixed sections really as yet. Although if you've got any suggestions as to sections that I could potentially have on this podcast, then that would be amazing and greatly appreciated. But sections will be kind of giving expectations, maybe things from suppliers about creative insights and pressures that they have in the industry. From myself, what makes photos meaningful long term, maybe. And again, stories that are either good or bad and what they can teach us. So I'm really looking forward to just diving in, really. I'm waffling on this episode, and rightly so, because I'm crap, and swearing can be allowed on this podcast, but I'm crap talking to camera. So hopefully this podcast experience will help. I think lastly, I'm going to talk about what to expect on this podcast. It's not going to be polished, that's for sure, as you can probably already tell from this episode. It's also not going to be trend driven. There might be trends that we talk about, but it's not going to be trend driven. It's not going to be performative. It's not going to be staged at all. It's going to be, again, real conversations, a safe space for people to talk to or talk in. And it's not going to be prescriptive. So a lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about is going to be off the cuff. There will be some things where I kind of question or have some questions written down based on who I'm talking to. But it's not going to be prescriptive. It's going to be off the cuff, as I mentioned. Hopefully, and obviously you might have already got this sense already, it's going to be quite a calm podcast. Maybe not something to listen to whilst you're driving, but I know a lot of people do listen to podcasts whilst they're driving. It's going to be very reflective, as I've probably already mentioned. We're talking about people's experiences, whether that is as a couple or as a supplier. And it's going to be pretty human. It's going to be pretty, there might be some pretty emotional stuff, I'd imagine, from some couples, having worked with them. Things that they had happen on the day, or, as we all know, there's not everyone that can make it to weddings. There might be some pretty heavy things that we talk about. Who knows? As I mentioned, not every wedding is the same. So I'm not going to be telling you what to do for your wedding day. However, with the experts that I've got on and from my experiences in the wedding industry, hopefully it will give you a better informed decision. So yeah, that is kind of what to expect in future episodes. Again, ultimately, this podcast is for you. It's not for me, although I am creating it, I am hosting it. It's for you. It is a space for real conversations, as the intro kind of gives you. It's for real conversations with couples, with suppliers, with photographers, with myself, as I said. But again, this podcast is for you. If you've got any questions at all at any point, please do go over to my Instagram page from this day forward, the podcast. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting some suppliers nailed in on the calendar, getting them out to you. I think the first couple of episodes might be just me talking. We'll see how quickly I can get some suppliers in. But again, it's not going to be polished. It's not going to be prescriptive, as I've mentioned. And hopefully it will give you a really good experience coming every week, hopefully. I'm going to be trying my hardest. I'm going to be trying my hardest to try and keep this going during the wedding industry season. For me, that is this month through to October. June, for example, I think I've got 8 weddings, so it's going to be crazy. But hopefully these episodes won't take long to record. Will take longer to probably kind of edit, but hopefully it won't take too much time to put out every week for you to listen to, whether that's on your journey home or journey to work, whether that's on a plane, whether that's you tuning in at the time of release of the podcast, or whether you're listening to this down the line. Whenever you're listening, again, hopefully these conversations will be real and something to look forward to every week. But yeah, and then hopefully one day I'll be able to move out of my office and into a studio. Who knows? But at the moment, we're keeping it in the office. See how long that lasts. Anyway, I really appreciate if you've been listening to this episode. I know I've been waffling. Probably parts of it don't make sense, but I really appreciate it if you have been listening. thank you, and I'll see you in the next episode.